We knew we were running late, we had to hustle up
They
there.
heard
so-
me just walk in here on 2 legs.
All right, I'd like to call the June 1st regular meeting of the Police and Fire Commission to order. Let the record show Commissioners Wanazak, Schaaf, and Goldhahn are present. Commissioner Roloff is excused, and I'll talk this morning in my President's report that Commissioner Mallett has resigned from the commission. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the May 4th meeting. Those are in your packet. Any questions or corrections to those?
Did the request for information about that was on, wasn't included in the minutes. So
Oh,
did I do
okay.
that when it was on camera? Must have
May have been,
That'd be
may have been
nice.
under closed session also, okay. All right, any other questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
been. So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Shaw,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Wanazak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. President's report, as I stated earlier, I've got a call from the mayor's office. Justin had asked to step down from the commission. So we thank him for his service, and when a replacement has been named from the mayor's office for us. So we'll be at 4 for a while until that takes place. I want to compliment Chief Litton and his training group. That a summary that you'd sent out with the training summary on each of the recruits, I thought was showed part of the professionalism of that organization. Whereas after they graduate and the training's done, it goes on and it provides actually an individualized training program for those folks. So nice job by that group, and we appreciate you forwarding that on to us. And a reminder that at the graduation tomorrow, they will have a recognition for Commissioner Nelson. Unfortunately, I need to leave town Friday morning for a funeral out of town, so Commissioner Schaaf will be covering that during that time. Thank you. With that, the next agenda item is election of officers. So as per the bylaws, we elect officers every 2 years. And that's due. So I will open the floor for nominations for president.
I nominate Rob Bowman.
Second. You do that, is that the way you'd like us to do that?
Then that's fine. And I believe I have to make 3 asks for this. So that was the first. Are there any further nominations? Going once. Are there any additional nominations? Going twice.
Slow down a little bit. You gotta think about this one.
Are there additional nominations? Is there a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Shaw, seconded by Commissioner Wanazak. There's one nominee. All those in favor of me continuing as president, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Appreciate the confidence. Now
I saw the yard signs all over.
Yes, yes. Now the vice president. Is there a nomination for vice president?
Yeah, I'd nominate Commissioner Shaw.
Commissioner Shaw? All right. Are there any additional nominations? Going once? Any additional nominations? Going twice? Any additional nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion for the nominations to be closed?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wanazak,
Oh, second,
seconded by
sorry.
Commissioner Schaaf. We have one nominee for vice president, Commissioner Schaaf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Vice President Schaaf. All right, report from the chiefs. Let's see, we have to keep the patrol officers longer, so we'll start with
Sure.
Chief Litton.
I'm the lucky one every time. Just a few things to report. So as President Goldhahn had already mentioned, we'll be recognizing David Nelson tomorrow at the graduation ceremony for his service. And we had talked about the fact that we're going to get him a plaque or whatever. Basically, David said he didn't have any room to put it on the wall anyway. So I am going to just get he and his wife the fire department T-shirt to present that day. Get him a baseball hat. There's one in stock over there,
Nice.
so that's just something he can wear
Yeah,
as a thing. So thought that would be better than hanging a plaque. So so we'll take care of that tomorrow. We had 2 retirements effective today. At the end of the day,
Can you go back to graduation first? What the time again is?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, and the
Starts
room?
at 5. It is in. Boy, I'll have to. Let me see if I can get my calendar here. It's in the corporate It's on the west side of the campus.
Is that the
corporate.
Center for Business and Industry?
Yep, yep, over there. Let me look here. It's the corporate training center. You didn't have a room number, but I'll send it to you.
Okay, thanks.
It's basically the entrance on the west side of the campus in the corporate training center. You walk through that door, we'll be right there to get you in. It's 50 feet away.
Okay.
So, two retirements effective at the end of the day today. Lieutenant Jim Weeks is retiring after about 20 years of service. He's leaving the fire marshal's office. And our part-time clerk 3, Gail Josephson, who has been with the city a total of 43 years. 25 full-time with the inspection and billing department, I believe, and then 18 working for us part-time. So we took her out for lunch today, so her final day, and cake over there this afternoon, so we're happy about that. She's moved on to other things, hopefully retirement after 43 years, I hope. Captain Joe Thompson, who is our lead training officer on the fire side, has requested to go back to the floor. And we had granted him that request. Just scheduling was causing some issues with his family and so forth, and he's done such a fantastic job. I try to talk him out of it. So we have an open position there. We'll be posting that and looking for internal candidates for that. Don't expect that that's going to be a problem. Todd Coolman will be replacing Jim Weeks in the fire marshal's office effective tomorrow. So that's already been done. And I think that's it out of the graduation tomorrow. I'm looking forward to a good ceremony. And that's about it.
Any questions for the chief? All right. Chief Smith.
Easy peasy. Well, I have less to talk about since I sent that little weekly notice around, and the stuff on our discipline was just in the paper the other day, so I don't think I need to go over any of that stuff, because Doug from the Green Bay Press Gazette does a pretty good job of keeping everybody informed of what's going on there. We do have our Bark and Blue, which is going to be on June 5th, and that was in the notice I sent around the other day. That's a big fundraiser for our canine unit, which is out at St. Brendan's. Should be a good time if you've never been. It's really neat to see the dogs out there. We'll have our new dog Echo out there. He's the one that kid raised the money for. Looks like it's going to be a good dog. We're hoping everything works out great. It's a black, long-haired German Shepherd. So that's good. Speaking of dogs, we're having the Humane Society's dog walk is this Saturday. 700 participants. I get to be the Grand Marshal, so I'm going to bring my little rescue dog over there and we're going to walk around with the kids. It should be a lot of fun. Hopefully the weather will keep up. We have our swearing in on Monday. 3 people we're looking at.
3 for sure, and we're waiting on the outcome of the 4th.
Okay. Yeah, and I can talk about that in closed session about what happened with the candidates that we were all excited about that didn't pan out. Our golf outing is for the police foundation is on the 14th. And that's going well. We still have room for a couple of people if anybody's interested in golfing, but it should be a lot of fun. A lot of good raffle things and silent raffle stuff and all kinds of cool stuff. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
You've been practicing?
I've been practicing.
Yeah.
Rod and I.
She's going to carry us.
Are you gonna be there to golf too?
Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be great. I'll be there in embarrassment of whatever team I'm on the Subway, Iron Mountain Subway Sub Shop team. Keith Gehring has got a team. And Susan's got a couple of an aunt and an uncle from Montana that are coming out, so maybe you chat with them. They joined the Marines and went to DC, but they're going to be back to that, so it'll be interesting.
More Montana people?
Yeah, more Montana people, yeah, they're all over the place, just when you don't expect it.
Skip the reporters.
Yeah, that's right. So that should be good. We're still down in our numbers. I was hoping that this class would be 6 and we could start filling them up, but looks like we weren't able to do that, not nearly as well as we thought. But again, we can talk about that in closed session. But that's about it. Our investigations are moving forward. Those are moving forward well. We just had a meeting now where we talked about some issues about use of force with some outside folks, and I think we're doing well with that. I think that's it. You know, Sherry's funeral was the other day. I thought that went well. I was really sad to see her go, and after 52 years. We're going to be dedicating a park bench for her over at Brisk Park. So we've got that. We got the funding for that. We're going to have a plaque, Sherry's bench, and say something nice there, and so we'll have something to remember her by for all those years. So.
Any questions for the chief? Do you want to talk about now?
You know, Pep, now might be good, because then we can go into closed session. He rode with me, so he's trapped.
Okay, all right.
So this is John Balsa, who runs our professional standards division, which does training. He's, as much as we have in the department, expert on our PEP tests.
Okay, our PEP tests are administered through a company called PEI out of Milwaukee, and that company also does our polygraphs. The PEP test is an online test with numerous questions that judge things from like ethics, adaptability, truthfulness, basically personal characteristics. The test, each question is timed, so that the test question, if you say, when's the last time you stole something, there's an average amount of time because they administer this test so many places nationwide. They'll have an average, it takes people 3.8 seconds to answer a question. And if you answer outside of that, the longer you're outside of that number, the more distortion there is. You got to think about it. Did I really steal anything 5 years, or was it 5.5, or whatever? The longer you take, the more, there's another category called distortion, which in their world means either red flags or untruthfulness. It's a question you're going to have to follow up on. So, that being said, there's very few people that would score 100. I don't think that there is a 100 score that I've seen in my time there. The company says that nationwide...
When you say very few score 100, is that in the overall?
In the overall,
On the
overall score.
Okay, so, because there's an overall score, but there's some of them score 100 in other areas.
Yeah, they could
Okay.
score high in ethics or empathy or
Okay.
anything like that, but I don't think I've ever seen a 100 score overall.
Okay.
The company that we go through said that the nation average, because they do this nationwide, the score is about 55% total score. Our scores were 67% last year and 65% this year, which they consider quite good grades. Having a lower grade doesn't mean that there's something bad about you, it just means there's probably going to be a follow-up on these things. So, one of the things that came up recently is one of our candidates that didn't quite make it through the process scored an 8 overall. It is still possible to be an 8 and be a viable candidate, it's just that there's going to be a lot of follow-up work, a lot of extra work on the background test, employment verifications, talking with teachers, probably more reference follow-up, things to answer the questions of why it was so low.
Would that have a lot to do if they were poor readers and they read slower? Or?
There's a few different reasons, and that is one of them, that they didn't understand the way the questions are rated. I've seen the questions, they seem to be fairly straightforward, but I guess there is room for interpretation. More likely, the reason why they score tests is that they're either absolutely too literal, or in some cases, they have a good deal of life experience. For instance, one of the questions is, have you ever raised your voice to someone at a job? And that's one that will usually come up as a red flag. One of our candidates had former law enforcement experience. You're likely going to raise your voice in the line of our work. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, it just needs an explanation in the follow-up interview. Why did you raise your voice? A person threatening me with a knife and I had to yell at them to put the knife down. Perfect, we've answered that question. It will come again later in the polygraph part of it, but we're still not absolutely done with this, but so far we've at least answered that question satisfactory that we can move on. Some of them also are, when's the last time you've been in a physical disturbance? Now, you'd think that most of our people are probably younger people. If they've been in a great deal of physical disturbances, there's huge red flags with this person. If they came from another law enforcement career, the military, they're in Taekwondo. If they answer that truthfully, they've probably been in a physical disturbance, depending on how they interpret that question. If I interpret Taekwondo lessons as a physical disturbance, I'd probably say I haven't. I could also say, well, I just went sparring and I was in a physical disturbance. They're follow-up questions. So after we take after the candidates take it online, we have follow-up questions. By the time we have them for the follow-up questions, they will probably within 10 minutes, they will give us this total report. So whether they answer the question, I've been in a physical disturbance, Or there's distortion. It said, have you ever stolen anything from an employer? They might say no, but the distortion category said it took you 10 seconds longer than the national average to answer this question. So we're going to be asking you, okay, have you ever stolen anything from work? How about a Post-it note? Start with, how about, did you ever accidentally take a pen home? We'll work from there. Even if we haven't completely satisfied that, we have a place to go. Okay, verify again where you worked. In the city of Green Bay, I worked for the fire department, whatever. We'll go and talk with those people. And again, everything that we have here goes to the polygraph test. So there is still ways that a person with a low score can pass and become a viable police officer. The national average for people who score below 10% are about 10% of those people are still viable candidates. The other 90%, there's probably something wrong with them somehow. So we still would proceed with that without being very specific about a recent one. We had satisfactory answers that she gave in the interview. Our polygraph person gets all of our written notes when they go for the polygraph or our questions. They already have the PEP interview in-house, so they can address things like that. Like, well, maybe this theft thing is still a lingering issue. Maybe this anger thing is still an issue. An ethical decision. Would you report if you saw someone stealing $2.50 worth of stuff? Well, the answer should probably be no. Or I mean, yes, sorry. I would report that. And then there's another question, would you report someone stealing $50 worth of stuff? Well, that should be also yes. If they answered no to the bottom one, what's your rationale for that? Well, some people say, well, hey, I've accidentally taken pens home. That's what I meant by that. I wouldn't report them for accidentally walking home with a pen in their shirt. Okay, but they said they would do the right thing. Still goes to our polygraph test. If they satisfy our answers, which there have been people that didn't get through the PEP, if they didn't have satisfactory answers, we didn't proceed much further with this. Or we satisfied it with the background test that there was still problems. It's not foolproof by any means yet. The test results are automated with interpretation, but they're not done by a mental health professional or a polygraph examiner. They're clues and flags to chase. So even with that, as in one recent example, there were still questions we had that came on in the polygraph. We weren't satisfied with the answers yet. And being that it's customized by the same company, they can take that from the answers, which we had a red flag on, to a question which seemed to be answered. And it later came up in the polygraph, and we found out that there indeed was a problem. It got caught. It's a net. And that gets tighter and tighter as they go along up to the polygraph and the cycle. Another way to have a low score is your life experiences. If you're a little bit more literal on things instead of global, if you're a little sarcastic, a little less flexible than you used to be, you're pretty focused in what you've done. You can answer these questions that go a little bit outside of what the expected answer is. Even if you're 100% truthful, answer the amount of time, you still might come up. The test will put you low. But then you can ask them, well, I was in the military. We had to do it this way. The only way was to do it this way. There was no flexibility. Okay, well, now your answer makes more sense. There are other things in there that could come up, like interpersonal issues. Can we ask them, we can ask them follow-up questions, both in our interview and the polygraph. Is this something that's unsurpassable, or is it manageable? Questioning authority, for instance, working with others in distress, working with coworkers. Any of those things can come up as problems, and they can have answers. They can see that this is something we can manage, or this is something that we're probably going to need to avoid with this person. And you could follow that up. That might not be the defining moment where we eliminate this candidate, but we could follow it up by going and talking to the manager when they worked at a fast food place, or manager when they worked on a farm for someone. Oh yeah, this guy was a good deal with him. Or, yeah, he was always very agreeable. He just answered the question literally. So it's a great tool that points us in the right direction on a number of issues. And over time, as we are watching, we're pretty spot on with what the answers are and what the red flags are. If they do continue in our process and wind up being hired by us, it also helps us assign them to the correct trainer. There might be an authority issue, there might be an empathy issue. Obviously, we don't want to go too close. We don't want to tread in the ethics issues, truthfulness issues at all. But the other issues on there, we can usually train and either points us in a direction for the right questions to ask.
How long is the online test?
Time-wise, it takes them probably about a half an hour to 45 minutes-ish, depending on how quick they sign on, fill in their name information, and so forth. Fairly
And they do
easy.
that right at the police station?
They do that on our computer, under our eye, so that we know that they are indeed the ones that are answering it. I would imagine, like anything, you might be able to get an answer key somewhere, but the test is given by multiple agencies, so you could apply for anything across the state. We have part of the service, we can tell how many times they took it from other places, so you can learn the answers along the way. That's another component of this. So you could take it in Appleton and really just do miserably. And they come in and they say, oh geez, I realized that my question about this was where I lost it. And you take it for Oshkosh, you do a little bit better, you take it for Green Bay, and they'll tell you what exactly they changed in each answer to the letter. Which kind of helps us. Is something you really misinterpreted, or are you trying to disguise your truth?
So this same company administers all the tests throughout the state?
They administer to a lot of places. It's not a standard for every law enforcement agency around the state, but it's common. I would say we see it frequently.
How long have you been utilizing it here in Green Bay?
Overall with us, I'd probably have to defer to Jen.
As
More
long as
than
I've
10
been
years.
involved in recruitment, that's 9 years.
It was
8
there
years.
when I did the police recruitments, so that's more than 10 years.
We can compare answers from one to another, which is really interesting. Well, here you said this, and here you said that. How do you explain that? And I talked to Dr. Childs, who's our psychologist who administers other tests. He said, PEP test is good. He said, but it's like an A ball. It's like playing A ball, in baseball. The tests that he gives, the multiple tests he gives, he said, those are the major league tests. This is an A ball that gets you some good questions, that gets you some good ideas, give you some places to go and a frame to start with. But he said, but my questions are, the psychological evaluations that he give are, 400 questions and all the other things he said. That's the major leagues, what he described it.
No, like, for example, they take the PEP test, the polygraph is based off some of the answers they gave. Is that psych evaluation also? Would he have the data from this?
Yes.
Before he goes into it? So he may ask different questions based upon both the PEP and the polygraph?
Yes. When his appointment is set up with both the polygraph and the psychological, I send them all of our paperwork to date.
And so the sequence is what, the interviews, and then after that, they do this PEP test as part of the
Yes.
background, more detailed background investigation?
Yes, written test, interview in-house, interview
With
here.
police and paramedic.
Then we bring them in for the PEP test, and it's a good starting point to see if they are even truthful on their employment application. That's part of the process. We bring them in, check that over. If you missed anything, did you miss any dates, any part of that? And dollar-wise, I think we're really getting our money's worth out of being able to point in what direction we should go in. Should we really go after the references? Should we look harder into those? Should we go there and actually talk to individual people she worked with or he worked with? I think it brings up a lot of the red flags, and it has been very consistent with the type of officer they're going to be, or the reason that we ask at the end that they not continue.
Do we get any feedback as part of this of the psych eval? There's no reference to the psych eval in the background.
That's done
The psych eval is after
afterwards.
this, right?
It's after the offer.
Yeah.
After the offer, okay. Just, so then, after the offer, it still could be declined if something came up, right?
Yeah, it's a conditional.
Okay, that's what
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
It is pretty impressive, the amount of information that gets pulled out of the backgrounds with this, and then the follow-ups and the things you uncover on folks.
I'm glad you explained it because I just sat here quietly and I thought it was maybe about how peppy you were. Like, you do one of those 5-hour energies before the test. So now I know.
We requested this last meeting because I read these sometimes and I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, well, I think it's great.
That's very helpful, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next agenda item. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
See you, Chief.
See you tomorrow night.
Yes, see you tomorrow.
Consideration with possible action on the review of patrol officer candidates. The commission may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.5, paragraph 1, sub C and F, Wisconsin statutes, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The commission may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85, paragraph 2, Wisconsin statutes, to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Monzak, seconded by Commissioner Shaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in closed session.
It's easy.
Okay, we're
Your
back,
turn.
we're back in open session. While in closed session, we reviewed one candidate, and there will be more follow-up done on that candidate, so no decision was made. And then 3 other candidates were removed from the eligibility list. Next agenda item, consideration with possible action on voluntary removal of a patrol officer candidate from the eligibility list. That was in your packet. Candidate Bond was requested removal. Any questions? Not, entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wazak.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Shaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
So how many open positions do we have?
10 minus 3 is 7, and then, you know, depending what happens in this last one we discussed. So we're looking at about 7 openings right now, which will carry throughout the summer, and then we'll hopefully have a robust hiring in fall.
And did you say we have enough on our list?
We will be doing another session of testing on June 9th as well, so there's still some on the list as well as building up.
So we will have some interviews.
Probably later in the summer, July.
Mhm.
So, okay. All right, next agenda item, consideration with possible action on the budget status report and the budget spreadsheet. Very little spending, most of it were ads for the fire recruitment. Any questions for
And that's,
any of those?
and that fire recruitment that we're advertising, then we interview in this fall.
Typically in the fall. Mhm.
For the next springs again.
Correct.
So we do that once a year.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think I got it down.
Yeah.
By the time I'm on here 20 years, I'll figure it out.
The police are
Okay.
ongoing.
So that's why the advertising.
So we'll entertain a motion to receive those and place in file.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Shaw,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Wazak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, we'll receive those and place on file. And then last item is the payment of the bills. And those are the ones,
And I just
yeah,
wondered what we were advertising. You answered it.
the polygraphs. And if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to authorize payment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wazak, seconded by Commissioner Shaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, the bills will be paid. And then the date of the next meeting, if we follow our normal rotation, that would be July 6th. Does that represent a problem for anyone?
If the meeting was July 6th, I'm going to be in Montana on July 6th.
This is the 4th of July week. Is that going to be?
White Sulphur Springs.
Oh, yeah, yes, there it will be. And I will have somebody come in and substitute for me.
All right. Very good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Monazak, seconded by Commissioner Shaw. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.